Did you know that when conception occurs, the first two cells unite with the spark of God to form life, the only thing that can do it. And then those first two cells go on to form like the lining of the amniotic sac, you know, the placenta, all of those things. It's like from the first two cells, the universe is created and then the body. So conception mimics the Big Bang that happens all at once and then comes into an order to form a life. And the development of the fetus and the environment that it develops in also mimics, you know, the evolution of life right up into the human form that it is. I'm talking about human conception when I use this example. I don't know why, that just popped into my head. I think because God is working on DNA in my heart right now.
The shifts that are going on right now are so extreme and palpable to so many of us. Sometimes I'm experiencing something where I recognize that I'm feeling emotions that I absolutely do not feel or did not feel a moment ago, that aren't relevant or that I don't really believe are mine. And that's when I really know that I'm in the throes of something. And I have the ability to stand back and look at that and recognize not to go with it. But for many people, I feel that they're getting swept up in the emotions and aren't really knowing what's going on. So could you speak to that?
Well, everything is energy. So an emotion is energy. So if there's a huge collective shift and people are wondering what to do and they're feeling a lot of chaos and they're reacting to some force that they don't even perceive is happening there, but they're also looking at the world with a limited view about what's going on around them at this moment in their life, that's where it's going to show itself up. As soon as we understand that there's something big happening and that we're a part of a larger organism, which is called all of creation, and it is engaged in doing something and we are a fundamental and vital part of it, then we can actually step back from the shifts and say, you know, what is happening here? How do I, first of all, serve my purpose, which is love and co-creation with Source in this evolutionary path, but also because we know these energetic shifts are about releasing from the energy, which is supposed to be love, all the energies of things that aren't love, we can actually recognize that our true energy only is love. So if what's coming from us is not love, it isn't ours. And we need to stop engaging in it because we don't want to contribute to the manifestation of more of it.
And so the best way is to recognize, to stop, recognize what you're feeling, recognize that you don't want that, and to let it go, and instead of reacting.
To let it go to God, though.
Yes.
Don't let it go out into the energy field where it can contribute to more unrest, which is a problem. People are sharing energy, they're letting their bad feelings go, they're putting them into the earth, or they're venting them at their friend or whatever, and so they're just magnifying and producing negative energy that goes into the collective energy field. When we have negative feelings, we need to ask Source to take them and fill us with our true energy and then guide us in what is our appropriate behavior or how we can serve love in this particular scenario that's triggering us or that we think is triggering us. So the part about releasing it to Source or releasing it to God, asking God to take it, is vital to actually making progress in this whole thing. Because if we're just doing what we've been doing for a long time, which is throwing this negative energy around everywhere, then how is the solution being brought about? You know, I think about this often. When we are engaged in society and we're pointing our finger at the people that are, I don't know, carrying out war or inventing things that are really bad, and we don't stop to think that, you know, if we give the finger to somebody in traffic, or if we spew hatred at the people that are doing this, we're actually perpetrating the energy that allows it to keep on. We're complicit in this because we're all one thing. The only way we be not complicit in the negative energy is by making sure we give the negative energy to source, and that we ask to be a vessel of healing, and that we strive to make every aspect of our energy, which is our thoughts, our words, our actions, into love. That's the only way we're not complicit in the negative aspects of what's going on in our world. So it gives extreme vital meaning to the fact that we need to engage lovingly with our family across the supper table, because we don't want this, like if we're used to arguing with them, we don't want that negative energy spewing out both into our environment and keeping us in the throes of it, but also into the greater energy field, contributing to greater strife in the world, because we're all one energy. So how we affect that body of energy is very relevant. It's our responsibility here in our kitchen, or there in our car, or in our workplace, or in the coffee shop, the everyday places we go. It's our responsibility to make sure that we are engaging in love. It is not a choice. It's what we're here to do. We don't have a choice otherwise. As soon as we think we have a choice other than love, we're already in the throes of such deep untruth that we cannot think logically.
Often when people are telling you a story about what's going on, or I find this for myself, there's usually something very judgmental about the way that they're describing what's going on. There's a sort of a judgment about the other person's behavior, and that makes them right in their judgment of that person. And all of these sorts of things just tend to hold people in a position of holding on to that energy. Mm-hmm. So what would you say about that?
Well, the first sort of thought that popped into my head that I asked God about as you were speaking was my understanding that having to label something as right or wrong actually has to do with the first law of creation, which is duality, right? So we have this mindset that we have to say this is good, or this is bad, or this is right, or this is wrong. And actually the only thought that we need to have is it loving or not? Because if it's loving, I'm going to do it, keep it, say it, whatever. If it's not, I'm going to give it to God to heal it. So that's the only really separation we need to have about anything. And in that way, it moves us out of judgment and into contributing to the solution. So there's that aspect which came through as a first message. The second piece is that we need to get our minds around the thought as a human species in particular, but I mean other aspects of creation too, need to get their activities around the thought that we are not each other's enemy. We are part of one enormous thing that is supposed to be evolving into one place called love with Source and with one another. So, and we can't do that by fighting. We are not each other's enemy. What's good for you is good for me. If you get your needs met, I get my needs met. There is no conflict here. It's not Sue or Christine. It's Sue and Christine. The world operates with and when we let it. Or the concept that one or the other is a human construct. It's a construction of the law of duality, which is about opposites or separation. But opposites really are the extreme ends that are of something that are needed to make it whole. So for example, night and day are not really opposites. They're components of something that becomes whole, right? And that's probably one of the most clear examples to use for this concept. So as soon as we get our heads around that it takes all of us to make something whole and make it work right, and therefore we are not in conflict with one another, we can actually start breaking down some of the belief systems that keep us imprisoned in unloving activity and reactions, because we are now in a more in alignment with more truth and love, which is that the universe has everything that everybody needs and everything within it is valuable.
So nothing is good and bad. Those extremes of being good and bad are meaningless, really.
The only thing that gives anything meaning is it loving or not? That's it. And if it's not loving, you shouldn't be doing it, because it's not your purpose. And if you think you can do it, you've got a problem. And if you think you can do it and you have a problem, you're not understanding that your choice is altering your DNA, and therefore the DNA of the rest of creation, and holding back the evolutionary energy of every living thing. We do not have a choice into love. It is our purpose. What we have a choice in is how. How are we going to love? That's our choice. That's where free will comes into it. We have the free will to love in any way we want. We do not have the free will to choose if we're going to love or not. Love is a given. It's what we're made out of. It's not even subject to question.